Well, do you believe people can have near-death experiences? Well, many people say they have, but just as many in the scientific community argue that those experiences, well, they're simply impossible. Neurosurgeon Dr. Eben Alexander was one of those people until his own experience, which he writes about in his book, Proof of Heaven. So good morning, Doc. Welcome to the show.
Good morning. Good to be here.
Okay, so what was life like before your near-death experience?
Well, I fully believe the conventional science of today, reductive materialism, which says if you get the subatomic particles, chemistry, biology, you can figure out everything, and yet that science knows nothing whatsoever about consciousness, and that's where the deep mystery lies, and that's what my journey showed me 5 years ago.
And then you had a dramatic brush with death. Tell us about that.
Well, it happened 5 years ago right now that I woke up with severe back pain, headache, then a grand mal seizure, was rushed off to the emergency room in coma, spent 7 days on a ventilator in coma.
Wow.
By the end of the week, down to a 2% chance of survival. Doctors recommending that it was just time to stop the antibiotics. And then I started coming back. And when I came back, my brain was so devastated that, in fact, I had no words, language, memories of my life before at all. And all that took about 8 weeks to come back fully.
Wow.
And during that time, I was very busy writing down this extraordinary spiritual journey I'd had deep in coma, which I told people about in the first hours on coming back because it was that real and powerful. And of course, I was worried that those too real to be real memories would fade, but they don't fade.
Huh.
That's one of the things about near-death experiences that's so extraordinary.
And you say in that 7-day coma, you saw God, you encountered God.
Absolutely, and in ways, the ultra reality, I describe a lot of this in the book. It's all a rich journey that should have not been able to happen at all, given the extent of my severe bacterial meningitis, which is the most perfect model for human death. And that was the deep mystery to me. How do I explain that? I tried to explain it as happening in the brain. At the end of the day, no, it didn't. It was very real, and it tells us something about the true nature of reality.
Now, you're a doctor. How do you bring science and spirituality together? Because this goes against everything that you've ever been taught.
Well, it's important to point out that the science that I worshipped before my coma, that conventional neuroscience that says brain creates consciousness, is false. In fact, that science, there's no neuroscientist on earth who can give you the first sentence to try and explain how the physical brain might create consciousness, and the reason is it doesn't. The brain is a reducing valve or filter, but a tremendous amount of our conscious awareness and experience and memory is not part of brain function at all.
Now, there are people, you have detractors out there that say they don't believe you, so what do you have to say to them?
Well, it'd be one thing if I was the only one to ever have a near-death experience.
Right.
There are tens of thousands of reports out there. Clearly, this is part of a deeper understanding of the nature of existence. And I explain a lot of that in Proof of Heaven. This is really about science and spirituality strengthening each other. But when I say that, the implication, of course, is that our science needs to move up from kindergarten level, where that materialist science currently exists, up into first grade, which is a much richer science, fully embracing the deep mystery of consciousness, that soul and spirit are not created by the brain at all.
Well, we are glad you were here.
Well, thank you so much.
To share your story, you bet. All right.
Thanks for having me.
Well, if you'd like to hear more from Dr. Alexander, he will be speaking more in depth about his experience at a book signing this evening at Unity Temple on the Plaza. It begins at 7 and it's free and open to anyone who is interested. We appreciate it. Thanks so much,
Thanks
Doc.
so much.
You bet. My pleasure. All right. Well,